Today, we get into remote work flexibility versus burnout and the impact of drugs and alcohol on modern society. Before we get into this week, when was your mushroom thing supposed to be? Has that happened already?
No, that was supposed to happen on Monday, but then Sunday at like, I don't know, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, we all went out for dinner. We all ate the same meal, same food, same place. And around like, 9 o'clock at night, I was like, my stomach feels kind of off. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then I slept on the couch because it just didn't feel that good. And then from 11 at night till about noon the next day, it was just constant shitting and puking.
Yeah.
It was awful.
Oh,
So yeah, food poisoning
God.
out both ends. I only puked like 2 or 3 times at least, but just like constant shit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's Wednesday at 10 a.m. and I've had since Sunday night. I've had 2 bowls of rice with bone broth and a piece of toast.
There's a couple things with that. You've been in Mexico for a long time now, so it like just goes to show you that if you're there for super long time, it doesn't mean your body builds up immunity to food poisoning. Like you could still get it any time. And then I know that feeling because I was just down there. I had it once, and it's misleading because you could feel okay. Like once you get it all out, you're like, oh, I'm so hungry. I think I'm good now. And then you're like, I'm gonna eat, and then you eat, and you're like, oh, and it's like it comes back. Yeah, you're like, damn it, I'm so
Yeah.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, that was me yesterday. We went to a restaurant at like 4 in the afternoon. I'm like, I'm gonna try eating some like, nice braised beef at a fine restaurant where it's, high ratings. I'm like, I ain't no more street meat for this week, right? So I tried eating some like, braised beef, rolled tacos, and within like I ate 2 of them, and then ever since then it's just been out again. So all right,
Yeah.
back to I had more rice and bone broth today with a little bit of seasoning. So that's been my culinary experience for the last 3 days. But to say the least, I am weak. I am tired. I went for a 10-minute walk today, and I get back. I'm just like, like
Yeah.
so out of shape.
It's a good cleanse at least. So at least when you start back eating again, your stomach's kind of like reset, instead of like,
Yeah,
I guess we want to look at it that
my
way.
fanny pack's just falling right off my hips. I'm just losing weight. It feels great.
What's so funny about fanny packs is like in the US, they're making a comeback now because Europeans, everybody wears them, but like you wouldn't be caught dead with one of those things in the United States a few years back anyway.
Yeah.
Actually, what they call them here, fag bags.
Yeah,
I don't know if we could say that. Yeah, we could say whatever we want.
We
but
did.
Now girls started wearing them back here like years ago. And now I see them all over the place. Now I would actually probably get one again, especially down to Mexico because it's easier. But yeah, I normally wouldn't be caught dead with one of those fucking stupid
And they're
things.
so handy, right?
Yeah.
They're so handy because, like, especially when I'm living in Playa or like basically anywhere in Mexico, if I go out, I'm out for hours, right? So it's not like back in Canada when I was on my days off, I would wake up in the morning, I'd drive to the gym, come home, then I'd go to lunch, come home. So I'm always back and forth from your home because everything's so far and spread out. But down here in Mexico, when you go somewhere, you spend the whole day out. So, I got my phone, my wallet, my headphones, my keys, pack of gum, change, right? Like there's so many things that's so handy instead of having these bulky pockets sticking out. Just wear a fanny pack.
It's safer too. You can keep track, like you keep track of all your shit. It's in front of you, and like instead of having a wallet in your back pocket, and of course it's hot down there, so it's easier to wear gym clothes. Nobody wants to wear jeans all the time, So
No.
Yeah, the fanny pack.
If you want to go gangster, you can wear like the drug dealers right across the chest, right, and do that, right. So if you don't want to be as gay in the front, you can drug dealer satchel as long as it's Louis Vuitton, right? It's got to be Louis Vuitton, right? When you know you sell drugs.
I now I'm thinking back to who I've seen wearing it like that. Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. So shit, like how many days are you left there, and are you going to have time to do that mushroom thing, or is that off the table now?
Yeah, I think it's off the table. Well, because I was so sick Sunday, Monday was basically a write-off. I did nothing besides sleep, shit, and drink water. Yesterday was kind of a bit of a work day, so I'm so caught up behind, and we have a lot of really cool things going right now with our work. We got a really good Shopify store we're rebranding and rebuilding for a runway model who has her own bikini lines. We're doing that. We have an enablement expert. We're building a custom website for him. We have a few more big ones coming up. Actually, might have a contract with a big law firm in the States coming up this week. So there's a lot of moving parts. To take, a day away to go do mushrooms, which is great. It's a good experience, but I feel so behind already that I don't, I probably need the experience, but also again, with my stomach not being good, I don't want to put in some psilocybin mushrooms and Then my experience is me tripping, seeing, the universe with some shaman while shitting myself.
I don't want to meet God on the toilet. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So, well, and you also bring up a good point about like work-life balance too, where people will be like, "Oh, it doesn't matter. I have to do these things," and it's we're all afflicted by it. But sometimes you just have to work. There's two different sides of this coin because I burned out when I was down there working with you guys because I put too much on myself. So that was too extreme in that
Mhm.
direction. But then you also like, there's some people that are like, "Oh no, I can't work today. I can't do this," and I know we mentioned this before, but it's like,
Yeah.
sometimes you got to be an adult. And if you can't do something, you have to go to work. That's just the way it is because you never know when the money's coming. And that's the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, of freelance stuff is
Yeah.
you could get 10 clients this week and then it could be a month, nothing happens. So, yeah, so you got to do the responsible thing and like, hey, look, I got to make up for lost time. That's just the
Yeah.
way it goes, man. You know?
It's the way it goes, and it's kind of nice because my girlfriend's son, forget exactly what it was, but he said he's like, "Oh, I don't want to do this," and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna learn there's a lifelong list of things that you don't want to do, but you just have to do sometimes, right? Like there's some things that are
Yeah.
avoidable, but like if I told him I was like, do you think I want to work every day? Do you think I like there's like don't get me wrong, I love what I do, it excites me. I when I get a new project, I'm like, oh, this is amazing, but there's some days where it's like I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do any of this, like at all. But I know that doing nothing makes $0.
What do they say about adulthood? Adulthood's like being shoved down the stairs as soon as you turn 18, and then you just constantly you're stumbling to try to get your feet before you die. Just trying
Yeah.
to catch up, trying not to trip before you die. It sucks. I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't go back to a 9 to 5. I know you've had a lot of jobs like that where you've been on shift work and everything else. No offense to anybody who's into that kind of thing. I mean, it's good. At least you know what you're going to get every day when you know what your paycheck's going to be. So hey, look, I admire that also. But yeah, this kind of shit is definitely not as consistent as we'd like it to be.
Yeah, I had some jobs on the railroad, for example. Like when you're waiting for trains and there's no work, you're literally just sitting there making $38 an hour for like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. So it's like it's easy money, but it's so boring. And like I need to be stimulated either physically or mentally or emotionally or something, right? So just to sit there in a truck or at a desk or whatever it might have been for like 10 hours, just like, are we going to work today? Are we not going to work today? It kills the drive of a human. So
Yeah.
doing what we do, sure, there's some months where I'm like, I haven't made any money. Like you're stressed, but like it gives you motivation to search and find new ways to make money and to like reach out to other clients or leads. It really grows all aspects of your life, right? Because the
Yeah, for
more
sure.
motivated you are in trying to find money, like same with like trust fund babies, right? Like if they have no concept of like what money is, life's kind of pointless, right? There's no reward system. Like what is a treat? What is a vacation? What is buying something nice for yourself? If money is not an object, then the whole relevancy of like what is treating yourself and what is bad is completely irrelevant. So same thing of like working for your money. If you're just sitting back and doing nothing, the importance of it kind of loses its touch.
Who was that guy, Dan Balzerian, the famous poker player guy? He's a
Yeah.
multimillionaire. He said, because he's like got more money than he'll ever spend before he dies now. And he's like, I may actually go like volunteer to work at an Amazon packing plant, like on the floor. Like he's like, I need a reality check. Like I need to go back to like, this is what it was like to
Yeah.
actually have to work. So you're totally right, man. And the shitty thing is we need cogs. We need people that do all these things, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be for everybody. That's a slow death, man. Working shift work, making somebody else money before
Yeah.
you, retire. What do they retire? Yell at cable news till you die.
Yeah, there was a stat because I worked for those who don't know, I used to work for CN Rail for a long time, and they had a stat. It was like it wasn't they had a stat. Someone took an analysis of CN. CN's never going to come out with like morbid death rates within companies. They'll never do that, right? But it was on average every CN employee that after retirement only lived for another 4 or 5 years until
Yeah,
right. And
yeah.
a
I
lot of
used
it
to
too is
count on that
because
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, a lot of it too is because like when you dedicate your whole life to just one thing, right? You're a railroader, you're a construction worker. That's your whole identity. It's what you talk about at work, after work. If you still have a wife, because the divorce rates are really high, those kind of jobs, you still have a wife, that's what you talk about then. So as soon as you're no longer needed, your sense of purpose is gone. And that's what
Yeah.
if you don't have a purpose, like an internal purpose, your will to live just diminishes, right? You're just watching, like yelling at CNN or Fox or whichever left right media people you listen to. I don't watch any news. I literally get updates on like from friends like, oh yeah, Russia's still at war. I'm like, oh. They're like, oh, there's a new virus. Okay, right, that's my news. I focus on my
Yeah.
world, my world.
The 3-foot world, it's a Navy SEAL thing. Like, just worry about what's right in front of you, which is good. Again, it's easier said than done, but I totally agree with you. We leave the country a lot, and I don't put on the news, the cable news, for a million reasons. Not that I don't want to be informed, but I figure the news is going to find me if I really need it to. Somebody's going to tell
Yeah.
me if something really big happens. But I notice a change in mood for sure. Even if I'm just curious and I'm like, hey, I'm going to put on like Fox for a little while, then I want to put on CNN. I like to watch both sides just to see like what are these guys saying and like how different is it from these people over here. And then you just get put in like a dark mood. But yeah, back to the point of like shift work. They've done studies for a lot of professions, like New York City police, for example. They were never worried about paying pensions for a long time because a cop would retire at 55 and have a heart attack at 58. Now they're having trouble getting the pension funds because people are living longer. They're like, shit, you're supposed to be dropping dead as soon as you retire. Having a purpose is a big deal. You got to have something to strive for, as scary as it is.
And that's what's kind of nice about what we do. Again, I'm not trying to convince everyone to be a website designer and a project manager and a copywriter, but like find something that really like is your calling and work towards that, because then that's going to give you purpose, right? Like there'd be so many days when I was on like the oil rigs or railroad or firefighting or whatever it might be, and like I had zero desire to be in that profession. The only reason why I was there is because only one reason actually. One, it paid me good money. That's all. Right. Don't get me wrong. There's some days where I enjoy the camaraderie and like the, sportsmanship with the other men and chatting and having fun and telling jokes. And, when I used to drink a lot, go out drinking with the boys and stuff like that and get into trouble. Like there was fun aspects, but the actual like work of what I got paid to do, not once I'd be like, this is my calling. I love it.
Yeah.
Right. So but then again, there's people that I know that work on the oil rigs and they absolutely fucking love it. They love it. They're just like, yeah, drilling oil. Like, and they're not even lying. They're true themselves. If that makes you happy, do it, right? But you got to have purpose.
It's a little misleading when people say you have to follow your passion, because there's some truth to that, right? But it's a little gray area, because if you find something that you kind of like doing, and then you're able to make yourself successful at it, and then because you're able to get successful at it, you become passionate about it by default, that could be it. So like, that whole thing where like only do what you love and whatever. I mean, that's not realistic for a lot of people. But if you find something like, hey, I kind of enjoy this, and then all of a sudden you start making money, and then, okay, well now I actually love it because it's sustaining me. It's making me and my family economically secure. So when we tell people like, hey, do what you're into, doesn't mean you have to love it, but just do something that you're like, okay, this is okay with me. Because we have days every day, like I like what I do, but I'm like, I don't love it. You know what I mean? Like I'd still rather be on a beach somewhere, but yeah, just having something to do. It reminds me of a story. My grandfather used to be head of security at a state mental hospital in Michigan, up here where my family's from. And this is a long time ago. And at the time when he was in charge of just making sure that they weren't prisoners, they were patients, but they were not allowed to leave. Like it was like a lockdown facility.
Yeah. Okay.
And they would have car washes there for the local town, like the city people could go there and get their car washed. And I think there were some other things they let them do. They let them like work on the grounds maintenance and everything else. They basically, all of them, even though some of them were really crazy and weren't allowed out into society, they had like a purpose every day. They would go do things. They would work, they had shit to do. Well, somebody came in, I don't know what director it was or what year this was, but somebody came in and ended all that. They're like, oh no, we can't have these people washing cars and doing things. And he said after that, it was a nightmare, because all the people that were really mentally disturbed, that were, violent, would not be violent when they had something to do every day. Like they were kind of under control. And then as soon as they started locking them away, they went fucking. Now that's an extreme example, but it applies across. You know what I mean?
So, and it's that again. That's really identifies like what purpose can do to a human, right? So to touch back on what you said about you don't have to love what you do as long as you don't hate what you do. Right? Because like most jobs, 9 to 5, that's 40 hours a week. That's what, 4, 8, 12, 160 hours a month. And that's going to be like what, over 1,100, 1,200 hours a year, something like that. That's a long time to hate doing something. Right. And like the direction of your mentality, if you're, I know mindset positivity is a huge thing, because I know if I keep dwelling on negative things, more negative things come towards me. But so if you're spending 8 hours a day or more negative and hating something and being, mad at your boss, like I fucking hate my job, what do you think is going to portray after you get off work? More negativity, more hatred, right? So you don't have to love what you do. Like Justin said, we don't always love what we do, but I'd never be like, I fucking hate website designs. I hate this job. I'm only doing this that makes money. Especially as an entrepreneur, right? You couldn't sustain that as an income because if I hated doing what I would do, I wouldn't do it.
Your quality would dip eventually. And then, as these days with social media and all these other ways that people can keep track of each other, a couple bad reviews and then you're tanked, and then it's hard to even start something else. But it's super easy to reinvent yourself these days. I mean, I started over a couple of times, and we'll get into this at a later time. We'll go through like my lineage, but I started over at 40 with the job I'm in now, and I had to relearn everything. But shit, there's so much information on YouTube. So point being is I was able to learn new stuff, and my previous job I didn't hate, but I didn't like, just like you're saying, I didn't like being there. It was kind of exhausting, but it was good money. I stuck it out. You can ease into things if you're thinking about doing online and remote work, which is a lot about what we're going to talk about on this show when we're not talking about diarrhea and everything else. But we're going to get into a lot of that. You can learn a lot of remote work skills while you're working your job now. You don't have to quit one. It used to, like back in the day, if you were working at factory A and then you're like, I hate this place, I want to go work at somewhere else, let's call it factory or business B, you couldn't do both at the same time. Now you can like, well, shit, I'm kind of interested in maybe doing some, email marketing, and you can do that shit on the weekends, and you don't have to go to college for it and everything else. So we're probably stating the obvious here, but people need to hear it because I need to hear it too. Like I know all this shit, but I always have to remind myself because I'll have some bad days and I'm like, wait a second, I'm sitting at home, I'm on the couch, and not everything you do for money is supposed to be fun. That's the other myth. Everybody's like, oh, again, you should love what you do. I'm like, not necessarily, like there's gonna be downs, but you're totally right though. As long as you're not fucking miserable at the end of your week or the end of your day, and the good outweighs the bad. So
Exactly.
I don't know.
Right. And so I've had jobs before that paid better than what I'm making now. But then again, I would work 30, 45 days straight, 12 to 16 hours a day. So for the amount of work that I put in daily, I'm getting paid exceptionally well for the amount of work that I put in. Could I be doing more work and making more money? Absolutely. But there's a whole, process to that of, client outreach and getting acquisitions and referrals. And it's a process that I'm building up to. It's not that I don't want to work more hours. I do. It's a process of building your clientele list. But, when I look back at a quality of life, like would I trade making the money I am now, being in Oaxaca in this beautiful fucking Airbnb? We're going to Medellin, Colombia next. Do I have as much money as I wish I could have right now? No, but is my quality of life better? Absolutely. Right? I'm not breaking my body. I'm not away from home. I was making an exorbitant amount of money, but my expenses for rent, car insurance, truck payments, cell phones in Canada, like it was like, I think it was like $4,500 something a month I'd have to pay just to live. That's rent, all those things, all those expenses, right?
Yeah,
my
no, for
cost
sure.
of living here is like maybe $2,000, maybe if I like, just like to live. I mean, rent's like 1,000, foods. My cost of living is more than half, and my quality of life is way better. And if I don't want to, let's say, like Justin said, if we have days where we're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it today, we can just shut our computer off, go for a walk, go to the gym, go for a hike, go do whatever we want to do, reset for a couple hours, maybe meditate, read a book, have a nap, and then get back to work. Right. But when you have those, I don't want to work today, and you have a job where it's a 9 to 5, or you have, I was a machine operator. If I had almost every day I didn't want to go to work, but I just couldn't. I had to go. Right. So it's way better life.
We'll have to do a show on the cost of living in Mexico because those are, people like to know that kind of thing in like different places because you're obviously you live in Playa del Carmen, but you're moving around now and everything else. Plus you're saving money this week on food because you can't really eat. So that helps. That part worked out. But it's funny when when you get a chance to work remotely, and again, this doesn't have to be for people that want to travel the world. You could just want to work remotely in your town. Like I don't have a car. I'm not paying car insurance. I mean, is it nice to have a car to go to yes, it's nice to have a car sometimes, but I'm not commuting. I'm not spending money on gas. You take away all those stupid things. I'm getting up in the morning, putting gym clothes on. This is about as dressed up as I get when we sit down to record, so it's not like we're getting, I used to have to get suits dry cleaned all the fucking time. I wore a suit, but like all those other things that go along with that. And and just being out all the time. So there's no perfect formula, but you can make your life better, even incrementally better. And it's really important what you said about working long hours, because, man, I've done a lot of reading on and like kind of exploring end of life professionals and things like deathbed confessionals. There's a lot of books out there now where you can read what people said, and not a single one of them said anything about wanting to work more or wishing they had put more, or even money. Like most of them, money doesn't even come up as like, I wish I'd earned a little bit more money. Look, none of us are getting out of this alive, right? We're all going to die. So everybody at the end of life is just, I wish I was more honest with myself. I wish I spent more time with people, like, the things that sound obvious,
Family.
but nobody's ever like, I'm so glad I spent my 20s working 16-hour days. And guess what? We fucking blow it. We blow the money. I've gone through periods of my life where I've made really good money for my age. Worked for the government when I was in my 20s. They paid pretty well. I didn't have any much responsibility. And I made a lot of money and I spent it all anyway. And then I've had points in my life where I made $0 for a long time and I'm still alive. I still was, I was doing all right. So, but yeah, so like with me, if somebody gave me a shitload of money tomorrow, I'll be on Amazon. Fucking, I need a new mic, So, dude, your quality of life, and you really got to take care of yourself, because again, what's the fucking point,
It's more. What is it? More money, more problems. I think is a saying, right? More money, more problems. And it's true. Like, I mean, I've had the times where I was making all that good money, running equipment and oil rigs, stuff like that. I spent it all. Like, I mean, could I? Am I going to blame my work environment, what I was doing, as a result of me being irresponsible? No, that's just me being reckless, right? But the nice thing about when you work for yourself, though, is you don't have the luxury of being reckless. Because back in those jobs, I knew that, I'd go on a week off, I'd go on a runaway, go party, go to Vegas. I knew when I got back, I'm going right back to work. I have, guaranteed 10 hours a day. Money's going to come back in. So there's no incentive for me to be responsible. Like externally, internally, yes, I could have been better with myself. But there's no reason, right? I'm like, fuck, fine, just spend it all. I'm going to go right back to work, make it again, spend it all. It's just a cycle. Right? But when you're an entrepreneur doing it for yourself, and now I got a girlfriend and a kid that we're both co-parenting and stuff like that. I don't have that luxury. I can't be like, money's going to come next week. That's not a guaranteed thing. It's not, right? So it gives you that incentive to be more fiscally responsible. Is that the word?
Close enough. Yeah, that sounds good.
Fiscally,
you got it.
Fiscally responsible. I'm a programmer and a web designer. I'm not an English major.
Yeah.
But yeah, it teaches you to become more responsible with your money because you have commitments, responsibilities, and there's no guarantee.
You made a good point about like having a job where you're just like going hard for a couple of weeks and then you get time off, and then knowing the job's going to be waiting for you. So there's something to be said about what we're doing now, where I give myself a bunch of little wins during the week. Like I went for a walk already today. I went for the gym all morning. I could take a nap later if I want. I'm constantly depressurizing throughout every day of the week, to include the weekends. I like to work on weekends. I know you do too. Mm-hmm. But back when I had jobs where I had to work really hard for a long stretch of time, it was like a pressure cooker. So then when I finally got time off, I went fucking crazy. So, and that wasn't healthy either. So then I would blow all that money and treat my body like a dumpster, and then I, come back and go right to work. So even though what we're doing now could conceivably be more stressful, there's also a lot more opportunity to chill out. And like you mentioned, like I could close this computer and tell everybody for the rest of the day, like, I'm not into it, and life will go on. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. Pick a job where you work really hard, then you get a couple weeks off. Dude, that's just miserable. You just wait and wait and wait, like a normal job where you get like 2 to 4 weeks off a year. And thinking about it now, it just sounds so crazy. Like that used to be a big deal. I'm like, oh my God, you got a job that has 2 weeks paid vacation? I'm like, 2 weeks out of a year? Like how many days is that between now and the day you die? That is fucking
It's brutal. I remember I worked 45 days straight once as a site superintendent for a civil construction company. Highly illegal. I think the max is 28, I think, or something like that. But I did 45 because they're just short people. And yeah, I was working like 12, 16 hours a day, and I'm just surrounded by a bunch of dudes in the middle of nowhere working. So, one day before, I was like, I smell women. I smell them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then, of course, what happens? You get out and just, woo! You're just going fucking wild. right? And then you wake up like
Yeah.
after a 4-day bend, you're like,
Yeah, it really is a really stupid cycle. I imagine most people listening or watching this probably will be wanting to do what we do, but if you do work a 9 to 5, hey, there's always hope. You don't have to do it forever,
absolutely.
and it's nice to have benefits. It's nice to have insurance and everything else.
Yeah, when I first got started with high ticket sales, I was a backhoe operator 9 years ago, 8 years ago, and like in between digging holes and stuff like that, I'd pull my phone up and reply to messages, and I try and get people interested in the product that I was selling and book them in for a phone call. And I had my calendar set up for I think I set up call. I started work at 6 in the morning, so I get up at 4, have breakfast, go to the gym, and then I'd for an hour do phone calls for people overseas or wherever they were from. Then I'd work my 10-hour shift, and I'd do another hour of phone calls. So like I was double hustling, right? Because I knew I wanted to get out of that. So it can be done. The problem is it's tough. And what are humans known for? Being lazy fucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We are.
we're always
Besides the sloth, we're the laziest fucking species out there. If we can find a way to make life more comfortable and less hard, we will do it.
we're always optimizing to burn less energy. We're always like,
100%.
what's the least amount of energy? It's
Force,
funny, like
yeah.
we're the only species that has buildings that we go to and lift heavy things just to make sure we can function, because our daily lives are like moving from one chair to the next.
I was just going to say, you know what? If they would invent a lazy boy recliner that was sanitized or sanitary that you could just shit in and piss in, it would be the biggest seller in the United States. Like, I can watch football, eat Cheetos, and shit at the same time. This is a dream.
I have to look into that. I cut a hole and put a litter box in there, like one of those cat litter, automatic litter box things. That's actually not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
but you
Yeah,
just
fuck
like in the living room, set up plumbing like you would for a bathroom, and just install the chair over top of it, and you'd have to have some sort of like steam cleaning system that does it every time. It could be done.
it's 2024. We're supposed to have flying cars by now. We should at least have
We
lazy
have to
boy
be
toilets. I mean,
we
for
have to be
Christ's sake.
inclusive for all the plus size bodies that can't make it to the bathroom in time, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of those. So speaking of all that, now how many days you have left there before you're off to the next place? I forget. I know I ask you all the time, but
It's Wednesday today, so we got Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we 3 more days. We leave Saturday. I think our flight to Mexico City is around 2 in the afternoon, and then we have like a 9 hour layover in Mexico City. So it's like not enough time that you want to get a hotel room because it's not really worth it, and just enough time that you're kind of be bored. So we have a 9 hour layover, and then it's a 6 hour flight or 5.5 hour flight to Medellin, Colombia, and then we're there for 45
yeah.
days.
I've heard good things about it. I mean, obviously, it's famous for that's where Pablo Escobar is from, and all those things. Which was, by the way, aside from all the Netflix shows and everything, people don't realize that was what the '60s and '70s. No, it was '80s and '90s,
Yeah, it is the
'80s.
80s and 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. So a long time, 40 years ago now. So, but I've heard like wonderful things about the city, and I've
Mm-hmm.
known some people that have been there, and they've got nothing but good things to say about it. So that'll be exciting. What's the climate like there? I don't even know anything about it.
So it's kind of like a rainy version of San Diego. So it's eternal spring between, I'm going to go Celsius because I don't know your weird American Fahrenheit that well. Only country in
Sure,
the world that has it basically. It's
that's right.
between
That's right.
like 20 and 27 degrees Fair or Celsius during the day, and like cools down to like 15 to 17 at nighttime. So it's just eternal
Okay.
spring, right? A little bit, it's up in the mountains, so it's not humid or a bit drier climate. Rains a little bit. I think it's a rainy season now, so it'll be rain, sun, and cloud. But yeah, I'm excited. I want to go do like a coffee, plantation where they pick the beans and make the coffee and that kind of stuff, and get a taste like freshly picked, fire roasted coffee beans. I want
Yeah,
to see
yeah.
if they have a tour like that for the cocaine plants. Like, I don't know if you
I
just
was
like
going
be
to
like,
ask you. That's why I
yeah,
was
like
smirking. I'm like, do they have a cocaine tasting?
yeah, like, I mean, can you just like go see this little Colombian feet go pitter patter on the leaves, a little
Yeah,
pitter patter, and dry it
yeah.
out like they do in the movies? Like, is that a
There's
possibility?
gotta be. It's from the same shit, right? It's from the
I
same
mean, well,
same.
actually,
Yeah.
most of the cocaine is actually grown and harvested in Peru. So it's a
Mhm.
Peruvian flake. So, but then they ship it to Colombia because that's where the canal is going up to Mexico,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. Distribution. I
But
like it.
yeah, distribution center. I think that's where the Colombian cartel is mostly distributed, but they do grow it in Colombia too, right? But yeah, I don't know if they advertise that on Eventbrite or not.
Fuck it. I mean, somebody will know if you ask around. But I think that's probably the question on everybody's mind when they hear about like Colombia and Medellin in particular is like, and we get this a lot, even coming from the States down to Mexico. Everybody's like, is it safe? Where I'm going is very safe. It's very
Yeah.
touristy. It's which I like. I like convenience. I like having, you know, in Playa where you live and
Mhm.
where I've visited, it's nice having nice stores there and nice restaurants.
Yeah.
Like I'm lazy, you know, I don't want to fucking, I'm not that adventurous anymore. But a lot
Yeah.
of people are like, hey, what about this or that with the safety? I don't know. Well, compared to the US, you can get shot anywhere here now. So,
Well,
you know, but
and
yeah,
yeah, the big thing too is like, there's shootings in Playa all the time, but it's cartel shooting another cartel, right? Like,
right.
of course, the occasional person gets, hit with crossfire, a stray bullet or something like that. But like, compared to the States where people are getting robbed and mugged and shot, and like, cops getting shot at traffic signals because everyone's just fucking carrying guns everywhere. Like, I feel
Yep.
way safer down here, way safer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like the only time I felt unsafe was when I was in Mazatlan when they captured, I think it was El Paco's or El Pacho's or whatever his name
El
is,
Chapo.
nephew. El Chapo, yeah, El
Oh, El
Chapo.
Chapo.
They
Yeah.
captured his nephew, so then the cartel started like shooting semis and fucking shooting at cops and shit. So I was in there, there's semis on fire. I'm driving down the highway. There's like a body in the ditch. I'm like,
Yeah.
right. So
Christ.
I felt unsafe then, but it's like
Well,
the thing is, actually, here's something I found. I just saw too. For the first time ever, I saw a tent. Someone living in a tent in Mexico.
yeah, it's true. I never
Ah,
saw any homeless
yeah. I
where
saw a
we
homeless.
were.
Yeah, I saw a homeless
Huh.
tent, a homeless family, a Mexican homeless family living in a tent in Oaxaca. Only one I've seen in 2.5 years. Only one.
Yeah,
But you go to
you make a good
any
point.
major
Yeah.
city, right?
Yeah, you make a good point because I haven't traveled around as much as you have, but you don't see just people, sleeping. And again, I try to stick to more the touristy areas. That's where the buses take you and everything else. But it's not like some cities here where I'm at, they're just like laying around everywhere, So that's a
Yeah,
really
I
good point.
mean, I see a lot of drunk Mexicans just passed out by the beach, right? But like compared to every city in, I shouldn't say every city, but almost every city in Canada, United States that I've been to, there's at least one district where all the homeless people are. There's tents everywhere, poverty's through the roof.
Yeah.
You go down to Vancouver, it's like 10 city blocks of just drug dealers and opioid users and hookers and just like, and I feel kind of bad because a lot of it is mental health issues, right? A lot of it are people don't, like, I guarantee you all those people there didn't choose to fucking ruin their lives, right? It was some sort of
Right.
trauma that they're dealing with. But down here, you don't see it very much. And even the
It's
ones that are
true.
homeless there that I saw, they had two kids, right? They were cleaning their clothes. They didn't look like they were drug users. They're just really, 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 really poor, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the
Yeah.
case in Canada, United States. Most of the homeless that I see, it's because they got into drugs, and there's, the mentality of the way things are in Canada, and the brainwashing with the government and the media, and comparing your life to the fucking Joneses, and what happens when you get stressed? Here's some Ritalin, here's some
Yeah.
painkillers. It's not helping. We're just going to up the dosage, right?
Most of the homeless problem here, same as Canada, I'm sure, is you can draw a line back to trauma that then gets medicated with something they shouldn't be medicated with, or they can't get medication, so they turn to the things, like the opioids and things, and then it's just
Yeah.
after that, it's like a spiral. Talking about like safety, you're right about the cartel down there. It is organized crime, but it's organized crime. So when people are like, "Aren't you worried about this?" I'm like, well, "I'm not messing with the cartel. I got nothing to worry about." It's like you have to go looking for trouble.
I'm one of their customers.
Well, their best customer. The horror stories, if you really pay attention to them, you're like, wait a second, these people got hurt or robbed. If you read into the story, it's like, oh, 3 a.m. on Saturday in some dark part of town. Well, no shit. I'm not saying you can't go out and have fun late at night, but if you're just doing normal, stupid American or stupid Canadian shit where we hit the bars and we're out till midnight or whatever, but you're in like the area where everybody's, that you go wandering off down an alley somewhere, then yeah, of course you're gonna have a
Yeah,
problem. And
you're
usually
a
it's the
walking
cops.
target.
Yeah, usually it's the cops that are kicking your ass out there. So
Yeah. We had a friend of ours get beat up by the cops because the same thing. It was 2 a.m, drunk by himself,
yeah.
walking down a dark, dirt road street. You might as well just
I want to
like,
get him. Yeah. I want
you
him
might
to
just
come on
walk
and
with
tell
it.
that story.
Wait, we'll see if we can. We won't release any
Yeah.
names, right? But
It's
going back to
funny though. Yeah.
it is pretty funny. It's like, of course, you of all people, right? Nice
Yeah. Yeah.
little
He has
guy.
a very, very punchable face.
Yeah, just something about it just makes you want to just clock
Yeah.
one, right? So,
Take his money, take his
but
wallet. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, going back to the opioid thing, like it's sad because I have one of my old best friends. We were friends for like 9 years, and he had everything. Right, he had a house, he had a business, a food truck. He was a staple in the community of the town I was living in and growing up in. And he just had some traumas from childhood, and then he got into drugs, and then the drugs started taking over, and he started missing payments, and then things they started repossessing trucks and payments and houses and businesses, and he's been living in Vancouver on the streets for like 2.5 years now,
Yeah.
just off the deep
Yeah.
end, right? Like wandering the streets, God knows, doing what for money to try and stay alive. And it's just, you went from having everything to just having nothing, right? So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
slippery slope.
I don't know what the answer to all that is. Both of our countries have a lot of money. I don't know if we need to legalize stuff and then tax it. This is a problem that's larger than you or I, but you know what I mean? Like those
Yeah.
people need treatment because you can't just tell somebody to stop doing heroin. It doesn't work that way. I mean, shit, most of the people I know can't even stop drinking, like, hey,
Yeah.
you can't drink this week. They're like, what do you mean I can't drink this week? So
I
imagine
know.
trying to quit heroin.
I had one friend, he invited me over for a barbecue with him and his girlfriend. So I go over to his house and I walk in, they're both like zonked. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? They're like, oh, we're snorting oxys. I'm like, you invited me over for a fucking steak dinner at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
What the fuck is this? And he's like, you want something? Like, no. And then my brother like looked at him. He's like, no. He's like, you want something? My brother's like, no, I don't want any fucking oxys. He's like, why not? You're gonna love it. My brother's like, of course I'm gonna fucking love it. People don't throw their lives away because it sucks.
That's a good point. Like, of course
Right?
it's
Like,
awesome.
of
Okay.
course I'm
It's
gonna
gotta
fucking
be.
love it. This is the reason why I don't do it, because I know I'm gonna love it.
God, there's so many drugs. There's so much shit you can do out there. I'm still can't believe it. I love alcohol, man. There's no hiding that fact. I mean, everybody knows. Anybody who knows me knows that. I have liver damage from it that we've talked about, and I'll get into
Yeah.
again. Have to go get my ultrasound with the hot chick every year. But like that shit is legal. Like alcohol's poison. That's legal. It shouldn't be. I mean, look, I'm glad it's legal, but like, why is that okay? And then marijuana and mushrooms are not. I mean, weed's okay here.
Actually, I do a little fun fact history for you. The reason why they banned marijuana and made it illegal. So the marijuana plant was originally brought over and used, and not only was brought over, they originally used it for hemp to make for textiles. But when the Industrial Revolution was happening, it was actually harming the textile industry because they could use hemp, which is a renewable product. They want to get plastics more involved. So then they found a way to actually ban it and say that hemp and all hemp products are illegal because they wanted their textile industries to rise through the Industrial Revolution.
Figures.
Down
It
to
usually
money.
has something to do with it. It usually has something to do with that.
Well,
It's
I
like,
did with an example, right? Like, how many times I've never heard of a group of people sitting down getting stoned and be like, let's go rob a bank. Let's go, rape someone. Let's go do something stupid, right? Never. I've never heard of anyone just getting stoned and say, let's go do something illegal, right?
Yeah.
But
Let's go fight the cops.
There's been times where I've drank. I'm like, yeah, let's go smash some car windows. Woo!
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not a violent person, but like I start drinking. Like sometimes I'm like, yeah, okay, I could fuck some shit up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. No, for sure. I just
Right?
can't believe it. And just the harm to your body. And yeah, we could talk about drugs.
Speaking about harm your body, I think alcohol is one of the only substances that if you're an alcoholic, you can't quit cold turkey. It's one of the only ones it's the only ones that you actually need it in your system, because I forget the actual science of it, but if you quit cold turkey, all of your organs will shut down and you'll die. Every other drug out there, be heroin, crack, MDMA, whatever it is, you can go cold turkey. You'll go through very severe withdrawals, but your organs won't shut down.
We had a friend in Florida that she stopped drinking, and then she went into a coma and died. She was young too, like 30, in early 30s.
Wow.
And that's not. I mean, there's a bunch of stories like that, but I know that one in particular. But it was because of that. She's like, I'm just going to stop. Yeah. And then, she just like started having convulsions at home by herself. Had a seizure, fell off the bed, and obviously was like out of it. So nobody found her until it was too late. But yeah, you're exactly right. She was like, I'm going to stop drinking, and what a poison. It kills your gut microbiome. And we, not to turn this into a health non-drinking show, but it is a big fucking deal, man. So
go get a Bud Light, you queers.
I think I have Stella upstairs, but well, shit, man. We're Artois, yeah, it's Belgium.
Oh yeah.
we'll do one more of these before I go into my silent meditation retreat. That's a whole nother story in
When
itself. I do want to record before I go, and then as soon as we can afterwards, just to see if I'm like lost my shit or not, or maybe I'll come out wearing robes and I'll be like some cult leader, with like I think I'm
bunch of
Jesus or
beaded
some shit.
necklaces.
But I'll be enlightened, and then we've got some guests coming up that are pretty exciting too.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
fucking yeah, that's all I got. So until
All
next time,
right.
everybody.